Coffee grows cold on the kitchen table. Morning news plays to an empty room. Detective's badge feels heavier today. Another case, another life consumed.
All right, folks, welcome back to MJ on Crime, where every crime has a story. I'm MJ, your favorite retired Fed. I'd like to think that, taking you on a journey into the shadows. Today's story, we head off the grid out into America's greatest wild spaces to talk about something that's haunted law enforcement, families, and a ton of everyday people, the mystery of missing persons in our national parks. Now, if you've been following true crime for a bit, you've probably heard some of these names. Dennis Martin, for example. This kid went missing in the Great Smoky Mountains back in '69. One minute he's there with his family, the next vanished. Or Stacey Ann Arris in Yosemite, 1976, out for a simple hike with her dad, stops to check out a cabin and never returns. Her camera's there, her belongings are there, but she's not, just gone. These aren't just one-offs. Over the years, we've seen a pattern emerge. Solo hikers, sudden weather, people experienced outdoors folks, and green alike, all disappearing. And not just in one park either. Yosemite, Mount Rainier, the Great Smokies, all of them have long lists. Some folks get found, sometimes tragically, sometimes they're just lost and scared, but a surprising number never turn up at all. What sets these apart from your everyday lost or missing person is the total lack of evidence. No sign, no tracks, search dogs turning up nothing. I spoke to a retired New York State Department of Environmental Conservation police officer for this episode. He told me about an incident during his career. He said, "I handled the case of a missing hiker myself, a missing hiker up in the Adirondacks, back before cell phones could save you, and GPS was not something average people had." He further stated, "There's this sinking moment, a feeling days in, when even seasoned rescue searchers start thinking, was he even here to begin with? Has the forest itself just erased the signs?" And you realize these cases are about as cold and unforgiving as the wild itself. We'll get into the theories and procedures, but let's start by understanding just how common and weird these cases get. Now let's focus on the United States Park Service. You'd think with all the attention, the Park Service would have this locked down. Tight protocols, clear lists of the missing, fast search teams, and all that. And look, the Park Service, law enforcement rangers, and SAR folks are top-notch, no question. But the reality? It's a bit messier. The National Park Service does keep a list of missing people. But talk to folks like journalist John Billman did a deep dive in the cold Vanish, and he'll tell you those numbers are, well, fuzzy. Some say around 1,600 are missing. Others think the real number could be way higher because the record keeping can be inconsistent and cases slip through the cracks. And get this, jurisdictions get real tangled real quick. A lot of these parks are huge, isolated, overlapping with local sheriff's departments, tribal lands, and the feds, right? So, if someone disappears near a boundary, who takes the lead? Who handles the evidence? Families of the missing, they end up lost in the shuffle, not just missing their loved one, but feeling straight up ignored by the system. David Paulides, the guy behind the whole missing 411 thing, compiling all those weird cases. He's hammered the Park Service and other agencies about these very gaps. He documents cases where families run into walls, agencies refusing to share info, paperwork missing, you name it. One of the tough parts is, as a responder, you're torn between wanting to help and realizing you might not even have the resources or authority to do what needs doing. It's not as if they're sitting on their hands, but these searches are brutal. Terrain, weather, limited intel. And like in that case, the retired New York environmental conservation cop mentioned, if I had today's tech back then, it might have played out differently. Instead, we relied on maps, radios, and a whole lot of crossing fingers. You get the idea. So, why do people vanish? First off, they underestimate Mother Nature's power to humble, even humiliate, the toughest among us. Experienced outdoors folks everywhere. But one wrong step from the trail and you might as well be on the moon. Most disappearances, classic stuff, slips, falls, hypothermia after a weather swing, or getting turned around in thick forest. Sometimes it's a bad health turn, heart attack, twisted ankle, dehydration. But then you get the cases where all the standard explanations just don't stick. A bunch of the missing 411 stories hit on weird similarities. Folks disappear near water, granite boulder fields. You're starting with solid ground, and someone just melts away. Scent dogs, normally reliable, many times come up empty. And sometimes when bodies turn up, there's no obvious cause of death due to the condition of the body left in the wild. Could be wild animals, of course. We know what wildlife can do when you invade their territory. Could be violent humans, too, though most of these cases lack the telltale signs. Some even whisper about, well, more out there stuff, feral humans living in the wild, or even alien abductions. I'm not saying that's where the evidence points, but there's a reason the paranormal theories catch on when nothing else fits. The wild is indifferent. It's not out to get you. It just doesn't care. But man, sometimes you've got to wonder if something else is watching, waiting in those shadows. Regardless, even if you're experienced, the smallest mistake can snowball. The forest has no sympathy. It just may do away with the unprepared and unlucky, and sometimes even the pros get got. Speaking of the wild's indifference, or maybe its secrets, it's no surprise locals spin up legends. Spend enough time near these national parks and other popular outdoor activity spots, and you hear the same stories. Ghost lights at dusk, figures moving just out of sight, strange sounds in the dark. Every region's got its own. Bigfoot in the Pacific Northwest, little people in Appalachia, even the odd rumor about government labs tucked away in restricted parts of a park. Sometimes a spooky story is just a way for a community to process real loss with something that gives back a little wonder, or, heck, a little hope, an explanation. But modern technology hasn't let up either, not by a long shot. You got drones scanning canyons, thermal imaging, picking up heat signatures where the naked eye would miss them, and even AI crunching patterns in old case files, looking for trends that didn't show up, say, 10 years ago. It's not just law enforcement agencies doing this either. More and more you're seeing local volunteers, citizen scientists, even seasoned hikers who know every stump and stream, getting in on the act. I have said it before, sometimes those homegrown efforts spot something a law enforcement agency misses. Maybe a trail left by a boot or a bit of clothing snagged on a branch that didn't fit the official grid search. That blend, fact, folklore, and fresh tech, adds layers to the story. Does it always solve the mystery? Nah. But it means a missing person gets a bigger army on their side, and sometimes that's enough to change the ending. Let's talk high-tech because times are a-changing. We're seeing those drones equipped with all sorts of fancy stuff, thermal cameras, high-res sensors, out there combing ravines and thick pine forests. Case in point, just a couple of years back in Rocky Mountain National Park, a hiker went missing. Thermal drones picked up a faint heat signature perched up where no human could have seen, and it led the CR team right to him, alive and freezing. That stuff saves lives. But the next frontier, AI. We got analytics tools now, looking at the last decade's worth of disappearances, mapping out hotspots, crunching the time of day, weather conditions, patterns that help responders shift from needle in a haystack to real targeted searching. And it's not just police or rangers running the show. Like I mentioned, there are citizen scientist and investigator networks, neighborhood online Facebook and Slack channels, and online forums sharing trail camera feeds or last seen locations that, coupled with GPS data that's almost real time, well, Almost, unless you're way off the grid, means even amateurs have a shot at making a difference. Here's the thing, though. Tech ain't a silver bullet. For every mystery solved, there's another that just won't add up. But each step forward, each search that ends with a rescue instead of a tragic headline, gives a little more hope. So, next time you're out in the wild, or you read about one of these baffling disappearances, remember, I have said it time and again. It's the mix of old school know-how, modern tools, and a community that refuses to quit that just might crack the next cold case. That's it for today's exploration into the wild. I'll be back soon because, as always, every crime has a story. My mission: tell it. Stay sharp, stay safe, and stay curious. See you next time on MJ on Crime.
Coffee grows cold on the kitchen table. Morning news plays to an empty room. Detective's badge feels heavier today. Another case, another life consumed. Questions pile up like autumn leaves. No wind to blow them all away. Who holds the weight of truth when lies drink deeper than roots? Family photos sliding in the man's straight. Smiling faces high where legs beneath. Evidence bags in yellow tape mark the boundary between love and grief. Questions pile up like autumn leaves. No wind to blow them all away. Who holds the weight of truth when lies run deeper than roots? Deeper than roots. Small town silence speaks volumes behind closed doors and drawn curtains. Every neighbor becomes suspect when trust breaks like glass on pavement. Forever change.